Welcome. Welcome to our November webinar. Anthony, when we planned this, you were not with the company you're with. So this just makes it look like I'm very biased towards you guys because now this is 2 months in a row. I've had Sienna people on here.
It's okay. You can be biased. We're a good company to be biased for.
You are. You guys are a great company. Happy to have you. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the attendees before we get started.
Great. Hi, everybody. My name's Anthony Civitano. I am a former beauty school owner, and I am now the Chief Operating Officer for Sienna Education Services. And we'd love to meet with you all, and you can reach out to me through LinkedIn or anywhere else.
And go ahead and tell everyone in like the major ways schools work with you, specifically beauty schools.
So specifically beauty schools, we have a multi-platform channel. So our first and foremost product is our CRM, which is really apropos to work with BSD and work with you, Jen, being the guru of admissions. But what our CRM does is really makes it very automated, very easy for your admissions reps to be able to take that funnel of leads come in and work them properly, work them within the right time frame. We have our student information system, and we have our consulting platform, and then we have a plethora of other companies, ancillary companies and sister companies, which is where I'm at today for Scholar House Media, and they do marketing for schools and all types of social networking and everything else. So yeah, we're a full service company.
And then I just found out last month, you guys recently launched on your CRM admissions video messages, which I just think is the future of admissions. So I'm stoked about that.
And I think that idea may have come from you a little bit,
Well,
right?
I mean, I think you guys might have already been working on it, but I mean, when I demoed it, I said, you know what you guys should include. But yeah, I love that you guys just launched that. So thank you. Of course, I have known Anthony for a long time. I used to work at ACS and he sat on the board forever.
13.
There were no terms back then, right?
13.
You were there for 20 years. You just sat on the board forever. So I know Anthony from back in those days. And of course, you know, we run into each other at conferences all the time. So I'm super grateful to have him on. As a former school owner, Anthony, how important were referrals?
Referrals are the lifeblood of any school. To be honest with you, they are probably the number one priority. When I was a school owner, it was part of our culture to always invoke getting the opportunity to bring somebody else in that's a referral, because they are, by and large, so often the best leads. They're the best or best enrollments, I should say, because they're already coming with an inside look at how the school operates, how it works, the pathways of education and graduation and placement. So it's just a real look, because an admissions rep or a TV ad or a commercial, whatever it may be, is really a kind of a facade or a window into what it looks like. But getting a real life testimony or referral from somebody is the best.
Yeah, I agree. I do want to talk really quickly about why I think referrals are the greatest. And I have ranked the top 4 ways that schools, beauty schools specifically, get leads today. And the conversion here is lead to enrollment. So this is just sort of like a good benchmark for industry data if you guys want to know how well your team is doing. Overall, I'd say if it's a referral, they usually convert 50 to 75% of the time. And that's not just someone writing down a name, but this is like genuinely like someone knows someone who wants to go to beauty school and they say, you should go to ABC. Like, it's an amazing school. I graduated from there. And when they show up to the appointment, they're almost always going to enroll. So that to me is like the best type of lead you could ever get. The second best type of lead is a website lead, and that converts about 15 to 25% of the time. If you're looking at digital leads, that's number 1. That's the best lead out there. Third is paid ads and PPC. That converts a little bit lower, but it still converts well, followed by third party. And so today, what Anthony and I want to focus on is that referral. Referrals are so key because they do convert so well. The problem is, I think a lot of schools just have really terrible tactics when it comes to asking for a referral, it comes off super desperate, which is why we named this webinar. What do we name it? Like stop looking, or you're desperate looking for a lead. What do we call it? What is the name of this webinar, Anthony?
Looking at my notes, it said referrals a goal, top source for conversion.
That is the description, but it's something along the lines of people look desperate when
don't
you
look
ask.
desperate.
Yeah, don't look desperate. And honestly, there are ways that we're doing it. And so I put this on LinkedIn last week, and it did spark a little bit of a debate.
Mhm.
You know, big surprise there. Jen Lyle says something that's controversial, right? You're not surprised at all. And a bunch of people basically, jumped on the thread, and we kind of went back and forth. And I think there is a time to ask for a referral and a time not to. And we're going to be talking about that today. And listen, if you are doing something that works in your school, I feel like I say this every webinar. If you're doing something that works, great, keep doing it. I'm not here to like change your mind. I'm here to open your mind to possibly using a referral strategy at other points in the journey. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that today. Anthony, let me talk a little bit about, again, going back to your owner days. How did you guys get referrals at your school?
So we asked a lot of different ways. So if you take the student experience when somebody's enrolling at the school, a great opportunity is to, when you're speaking with them and projecting what their journey is going to be at your location, and getting to know their what do we used to call them, their decision-making party, whether it was friends or family or, whoever it may be, to say, is there anybody that you think would be interested in this that would make your journey that much better? So if it was sharing a ride or transportation, if there was a friction point, and then we could see that there was an opportunity maybe to bring somebody else in with them that had an interest and also had a vehicle, that might be, but it was really a soft, very, very soft pitch for that. The biggest way that we got referrals was from the profession itself, from our graduates. My staff used to hear me say it all the time, and my students heard it daily, was that I have rules and regulations. We have the lesson plans, and everything we do to make your journey in school the best it's for selfish reasons. I want you to graduate. I want you to go out there and work. But when you get out into the professional space, I believe that the biggest thing is then you've realized your goal, right? You've gotten out there and you're a professional hairdresser or makeup artist or an esthetician, whatever it may be. If somebody sees you enjoying your job and loving it and being creative and making money, and they say, wow, Jen, you have such a great career. I would love to do what you do. How do I do that? You're not going to say, just go to beauty school. You're going to go to Anthony's beauty school. That's where I graduated from. That's where the fire began for me. So that's like the best. So it really goes back to just making sure that your team, your education, and your support staff are just giving the best experience to your students. You should really care about them. They're not just money walking through the doors.
I agree. That really kind of sums up to me the best way to get referrals. Let's talk about the admissions interview, because this is what I'm talking about when I say schools are doing it wrong. Several schools have a piece of paper that someone fills out when they come in for their tour. And I should probably do another webinar on how a lot of these questions that people ask are absolutely inappropriate, way too much information, and is not helpful, but we'll save that for another time. One of the questions on that piece of paper is write down some referrals. Who do you know that would make a great cosmetologist? Give me their name and phone number and email. And so in admissions, you get that piece of paper, you sit across from them, and you're kind of like looking things over. And again, everything comes from top down, right? So if you have a director that really feels like in that admissions interview is the best place to get a referral, when you get to that line, and if it's blank, that admissions rep is thinking, I can't let this person leave until I get a couple names. So you're pretty much just like begging for names. Who do you know? I mean, tell me about your friend group. Like, I want to call them. And it's just awkward. And the reason I don't like this, Anthony, is because, and I said this on LinkedIn, which kind of started the debate. I feel like it's like a server asking you, can you leave a review on Yelp for us on how you enjoyed your meal before they even bring you an appetizer? I think it's so embarrassing. And I think there's a time and a place to do it. And I do want to talk a little bit about that, about probably an exception I have in that tour. But we have got to stop expecting admissions reps to sit down across the table from a prospective student and ask for referrals. Okay, Amanda has a question. Asking for a referral before we know the quality. Yeah, exactly, which happens a lot, right? It's like, oh, cool. Do you know anyone? I don't care if they ran someone over, with a car last week, or if they dropped out of school and, or whatever, like they're unemployed, or it's a bad quality of life, like whatever it is, we're just asking people to put down names. When I shared that stat about the 50 to 75%, it's a lot smaller if you are just begging these people to write down names. Not a fan of that. Let's talk about the right way to do it. And Anthony, you kind of alluded to it. I like the whole life circumstance thing, right? Let's talk about that. You specifically said something about like if you're going to have to come 30 miles to school. That's a long way. Do you maybe know someone who you'd want to carpool with? Do you have a friend who maybe would make that? To me, I think that's a great idea.
So it was really like in the admissions process, it's just as important, if not more, to listen and not just regurgitate what the school offers, what we teach. It's about listening to what their pain points might be. Or if they do bring up a friend or somebody that they know that is shown interest, or maybe they started beauty school in the past, maybe through a BOCES or a high school program and they never finished.
Yeah.
It's like they're giving you an open door opportunity to speak to it. But I agree with you, to just kind of come across and say, you have to give me 4 names before you leave. First of all, as the rep, you're going to be wasting your time. And there's nothing worse than calling somebody up and saying, hi, this is Anthony from ABC Beauty School. Jen Lyles gave me your info, and they just like click, they hang up.
It's so embarrassing. I would almost never talk to my friend again. I'd be like, what the hell? You told her my name and my phone number? Why are you doing that? Like, let's not do that to these kids. It's bad.
Well, it gives your school a bad name, because then you become that persistent annoyance. And if you have a good plan to call people, a marketing plan to call people, if they don't fall into the right category of returning phone calls, just keep calling them. You just look like a desperate school, to your point.
I agree. Now, a lot of this new generation coming up, they have a lot of anxieties, especially about starting school. I did a webinar several months ago on the enrolled to start rate, about how that is increasing. And this is a problem in schools all across the nation. If you are enrolling, a ton of people and only a small percentage or even half of them are starting, that's a problem. Watch the recording of that webinar. But in that, we talk about what's going to be more successful for a student to finish their journey. And the stats do show when you come to school with someone and you start with someone, you are more likely to finish. And so if you could, if you are feeling that anxiety across the table from someone, God, I don't know anyone, I'm so nervous. And you could say, listen, you're going to find friends here. That's what's so great about this school is, it is very family friendly. And I guarantee you by the time you graduate, you're going to have 5 new best friends. But is there anyone in your life that shares the same interests that you would want to encourage? Because, if you come to school together, I really think you'd have a better chance at succeeding. Excuse me. Saying that in an admissions interview, that's the best thing you could say to ask for that referral, but not saying, okay, great. Now, can you give me her name? But telling that lead to go home and tell her friend. That's the difference. We're not collecting the name. We are telling that lead, go tell your friends about us.
Bring them in with your next appointment. You have to do a follow-up to bring in your high school, your financial aid. Bring your friend in. Let me chat with them while you're doing your financial aid packaging. Let me take them on a tour. It doesn't cost them anything. It's an opportunity to give them some education as well.
I agree. You know, if you guys go over to the chat, Scott added some really great things in there. And I love what he said about doing a great job with that prospect, so much so that they're going to go home with this amazing feeling and they're going to want to tell people about the experience they had with you. And so that to me is the best type of authentic referral. Again, we are not asking for names and phone numbers from leads during an interview. Don't do it. It's embarrassing, it's cringy, and it's very 10 years ago. We are asking people to just, you know, either ask their friends in a nice way or just blow them out of the water to where they're going to just naturally go tell their friends.
Right. Exactly.
So I want to talk about what I think beauty schools should be doing to get referrals. We've talked about the way not to get them, but there are lots of places where you can sprinkle in the journey really great ways to get referrals. So for number one is that I love admissions to be that cheerleader. And it's so funny. Every time I ever consulted, Anthony, literally every time I consulted a school and I was trying to find out the problems, like where's, you know, where are the actual issues in the school? I would always tell people, go talk to admissions, because admissions builds that first relationship. And y'all know this if you're in admissions, and tell me if I'm wrong in the comments. For the rest of that student's life, they're complaining to you. If there's a teacher they don't like, if there's a student that's bothering them, you know, if this person's stealing your clients, whatever it is, they tell admissions because that's their cheerleader. And that was the very first person they built a relationship with. And so I say that to say, admissions, your job is to enroll someone, but your job is to keep that relationship good throughout that entire journey so that you can go to that person later and ask them for a referral. Tell me a little bit about that, Anthony. You've owned schools, you've seen admissions reps. Am I right?
Yeah, so, you know, the first 30 days and the last 30 days of a student's journey through beauty school is the most important, in my opinion. So I always had my admissions reps, they daily had to go in and check on the new starts for the first 30 days and just kind of walk through. Don't ask questions, just walk through and look at your people, because you have, to your point, built up that rapport with them through the admissions process. So you kind of get to gauge and know if somebody's unhappy or they're happy, if they're squirming in their seat, or they'll grab you and say, hey, Jane, can I speak to you, you know, a little bit? They're not going to go out and call out their teacher right in front of them, but they may just, seeing you will give them that relief that they started a conversation with you, and now they can go into your office to chat with you.
Yeah.
And maybe there is something going on in a classroom that the director needs to know, the owner needs to know. And then the last 30 days, the same thing, is making sure that, so often it used to drive me nuts, but like beauty school students would look at their 1,000 hours or their 1,500 hours like it was a prison sentence, and they're like, 5 more days to go, 4 more hours to go, 30 seconds to go. So you want to get there in that last 30 days and make sure they have everything they need to be a successful graduate. Make sure that all their coursework is done. Make sure that their hours are up to date. Make sure that they're starting interview processes before they even graduate to get a job. And admissions is as much a part of that. You may have other ancillary staff members that are involved with that. But again, it goes back to that original relationship, Jen, that you spoke about, because it really is. I can't tell you how many times at graduation, they would thank their teachers, but then they would go to the admissions rep and say, I want to thank you for being persistent with me. I want to thank you for calling me every day, or whatever the plan was. Back then we did call them every day.
Yeah.
But, you know, thank you for getting me motivated to get started, because I would have just still been sitting on my couch. So they refer back to that admissions rep so much, and that relationship is so important. So at the end of their graduate, you know, when they're graduating as well, that's a fantastic time. Sit down with the placement person with them, make sure that, you know, their original goals are, you know, aligning with where the placement person's maybe putting them. And then, you know, it's a great opportunity again to say, hey, you know, I remember you saying so-and-so was interested in school. I never saw her. Is there anybody else that you've met or Don't forget
Yeah.
to send me people. Again, it's the same thing. When you're working in a salon and somebody says you have a great career, don't just tell them to go to any beauty school, send them to see me. And it's like, it's a nice rapport that you have.
Yeah, that exit interview oftentimes with schools so this is your balance. It's like this negative financial conversation. And if you can, and this is what I always say through an exit interview, how I would want to be asked, or how I would tell reps or director to have that conversation is, Anthony, we loved having you here. I want to enroll more students exactly like you. You showed up, you put in the work, and I can't wait to see what you do. I want more students just like you. And the best way I can do that is two ways. One, for you to leave us a stellar review online and just tell others about your experience, because I think it would inspire people who have a similar background and story. And then two, who do you know that is like you, that you feel like would be amazing in this career? And maybe it's someone who hates their job, whatever that is. If you could phrase it that way to someone, they're going to leave you a review every time, because you made it about them and you didn't make it about the school. You said, I want someone exactly like you.
And especially, it's knowing your audience, right? So you said, we want students just like you. Even if they were a student that was a troubled student, but made it through.
Yes.
It's to your point. It's like saying, hey, look, you've turned your life around. None of us have a crystal ball. I can't tell you how many times I sat there and said in my start class, oh, this one's going to make it. That one's not going to make it. This one's going to be a salon owner. This one will do that. And then I would lose like 90% of the time. I would never get it right, because everybody surprises you, right? The one that comes in with a college education and you think they're going to be attentive and want to be there, turn out to be the worst student in the world. The one who
I know.
graduated high school, or back in the day when we were taking ability to benefit students, they would come in and be like, oh, this one's not going to complete. And they were the best student. They were there every day. They came in early. They stayed late. They did any time, work needed to be done on the student salon floor. They were the first one diving into it. So you're right. Use their experience and just turn it around and say, if there's anybody that that beauty's changed their lives, send them over to us.
I agree. And I like that, because again, you make it about them. And I think sometimes schools come off very self-serving, and it's like, hey, we really need more reviews. Could you go online and leave one? Don't say it like that. Make it about them. You have such a compelling story. You dropped out of college and now you came here and you graduated, and look at you, like you're about to, go into this field of work. That's an inspiring story. Could you tell that story through a Google or a Facebook review? Because I think it might resonate with a future student. Again, making it about them and not about you. That's how you get genuine referrals and genuine testimonials. I want to talk about, this is an idea I came up with a couple years ago, and I would love schools to do this, because I really think it would drive getting more people in the building and seeing it. Because I hear this all the time when I talk with schools, is it's so hard to get them here, but once they're here, they enroll. Once they see our school, they enroll, right? How many times have you heard that, Anthony? Like, if they could just come here, they would enroll. I want schools to do referral events on the salon floor. And so if you have your freshmen or phase 1 students graduating onto the student salon floor, this is where you say, we're having an event on Friday night. It's going to be free for any of your friends and family that are interested about a career in beauty. And so you're going to have free services on the salon floor, in the spa clinic, and there can be a menu there and they can choose, and maybe it's not something like color, but at least blowouts and polish changes and simple facials, something like that, where they're going to come in and get a free service, and there's going to be food, there's going to be music, they can walk around, they can tour the place, but literally having a referral event where this now inspires you to go and tell all your friends about it, share it all over social media. What do you think about a referral event like that?
I think that's great. That takes off something that we used to do. We would give all of our students business cards, and
Mhm,
part of their training was, because you do this as a professional,
mhm.
the bank, and you see somebody and you think that you can make their hair better or their makeup better or wherever you are, hand out a business card and say, hey, I'm in beauty school, I'm in training, but I do some amazing work and I would love to see you come in. Here's an opportunity if you come in and get a free service. So
Mhm.
that would bring them in, and more often than not, that would either engage them to, it could be a future client of the student salon, but it also could spark interest. This goes to something else I'm thinking about is your clients that do come in, they're generally, a lot of times they're older women, whoever it may be, and they see you enjoying what you're doing and they say, my granddaughter, my niece, my
Yes.
son, my nephew, I think they would be great for this. It looks like you're having such a great time here, and your student body should be able to just say, yeah, you can stop by the admissions office and grab a file, a folder or a flyer, something to bring home, and just leave on that coffee table or that kitchen table so people talk about it and get to see it. So yeah, I think it's a great idea. Anytime you can engage and bring people into the school does sell itself. We're not like traditional colleges where you walk into a admissions office and it's, well, what do you want to do? We have math, we have science, we have history, we have this, we have that. If somebody's making the effort to come to you, they kind of know that they want to be in the beauty industry. And
Yeah.
it's just about you to create that excitement. That's why I always, whenever we were designing schools, we always put our admissions offices adjacent to the salon floor, because that's where the action is, that's where the fun is,
Mhm.
right? So, and then we, in one of our schools, we had a back when neon was cool. We had a neon sign that said "It all starts here," and it pointed into the first classroom. So it was classroom one, and that was like our mantra. It all starts here in the classroom, but then you're working your way through a beginner, a junior, and then a senior, and you're on the floor, and you're like the big shot, and you're doing hair, and it's great
Yeah.
bringing people in.
I love that. And Amanda in the comments also made a comment about having a financial aid table if you have one of those events, right? Because a lot of times people get in there and yes, they want to tour the school, but the number one question is how do I pay for it? And so let's make sure we're having our team out there, not only touring, but going over financial aid options. You brought up something that I want to pivot to, and that's our salon and spa clients. Y'all, these are referrals. And listen, the 80-year-old grandma who comes to get her perm, she's not going to go to your school, but she knows people who will. And I don't think we do a good enough job educating our salon clients to be referrals. How do we do that?
Again, I think it's about the experience that the student gains. I can't stress this. So many schools focus on getting them in and then don't look at their education or don't look at their student servicing coordinator to make sure that these students are happy. Today's student is very difficult too. They're very different than even from when I owned my schools just a few years ago. So I
Mhm.
think it's just about the culture and making sure everybody's happy. I think that those referrals come on their own then. I really do. I believe that if you are enjoying and loving what you're doing, it
Mhm.
just becomes such a part, especially if you're a person that started out quiet and shy and now you've found your voice in beauty school. They just want to like scream from the rooftops that they've found a place where they're accepted, where there's no judgment, where there's fun things happening. Make sure that you're going above and beyond in your school, and you're bringing outside educators and people from the salon world. If you can get to fashion week wherever you are, do those things. That encourages people to then talk about their school. If you're just doing your regular course curriculum and being boring, that's what
Mhm.
you're creating, a boring environment, and nobody wants to bring boring. When you go to the hottest restaurant or nightclub, whatever it is, or something unique at a place, that's what makes you talk about your experience to other people. So just keep that in mind. And I kind of think it happens as a natural progression.
I agree. I definitely think it's authentic and genuine. I would like to see schools better train their students on what to say to clients. And so I think it's important that you teach your students to be positive every time they're behind that chair. And this is not a time to be like, if the client is asking, how's your day? And you're just like, oh my, it's been a really long week. My feet are killing me. I can't wait to go home. Like, what kind of joy are you bringing? And so it's really funny. Like here, I live in Nashville, y'all. So in the South, we have, tons of different grocery stores, but the lower class grocery store, every time I check, which is where I shop, every time I'm at the checkout, they're like, oh, I can't wait to get off work. Oh, I've been here for 12 hours. Like all they do is complain. That's all they do. But when I go to Publix, Publix, they give you cookies in the bakery. They're happy to be there. And when I'm checking out, I'm always getting a compliment with how great I look. Like I can't afford Publix, but it's like sometimes I go there if I like need a self-esteem boost. You know what I mean? And I really feel like we need to train our staff to be, or our students to be like Chick-fil-A, to be like Publix workers, where they're excited to be there. And so I think if we can teach our students to say things that what they like most about their schooling. And so every time someone comes in, I want you to tell them what you love about your journey. Like, oh man, I just learned how to do a balayage last week. I had my first client. It was so much fun. I'm loving this career. I'm 3 months from graduation and I'm already like working at as a shampoo girl at the salon. And I love it. If they can talk about their journey in a really positive way, that's going to leave an impression on a salon client. And that is going to cause them to tell people in their life, every time I go to this school and get my hair done, these kids are so happy. Like they genuinely seem like they're being transformed. And so that just comes through coaching, and we've got to coach our students.
So that's a great point, Jen. And that goes to knowing your staff as well.
Mhm.
So your salon floor instructor or your head instructor, whoever it may be, that person that's out there needs to be a hype person
Yes.
above and beyond just education. They need to be out there. They need to like, just yell across the room and say, hey, Jen, I have a haircut for you. Come over here. It's bringing them over and saying to the customer, to the client,
Mhm.
Hey, Mark, I have Jen here. She's one of our best students. She's recently come into the haircutting clinic and she's been learning some amazing different styles and cuts. I think she's going to do really well for you. And that is part of the education then that student needs to know to start the conversation, to start the consultation, because that's a big part of what schools leave out. That constant consultation will eventually lead into, how did you decide to come here? How did you decide to go to beauty school? What brought you here? Because just myself as a school owner, as a hairdresser, anytime I went to a new salon and I was maybe traveling and I would go get a haircut, I would always ask the stylist, so what made you do this? Why hairdressing? Why did you do that? It's just a natural conversation that you have.
It is.
And then I think that you can't really program your students to really be, you don't want to tell them, hey, if somebody asks you, say this, say that, because
Right.
you're admissions reps. But I guess what I'm trying to get at is that if you give them the best environment and truly care about their journey, they're going to care about you. Not everybody. Some of them are going to be miserable and it just doesn't matter. But again, your student salon coordinator, your
Mhm.
whatever you call them in your school, should be always walking around listening to the conversations that
Mhm.
is happening between the stylist, the student, and the client. And they could also start invoking some of those conversations, because they may know, Mrs. Lyles has 3 grandchildren and one of them's not doing anything. The other 2 are going to college.
Right.
Hey, why don't you bring up that, however you want to do it, there's just get creative with it, because you do get to know them. The clients at a beauty school salon are as loyal as any salon out there. They constantly come in religiously for their cut, their color, their perm, their manicures, their
And
pedicures.
they know that these are students, like they're very aware that they're students and they actually want to know about their journey. You know, when I was a waitress at Cracker Barrel with 4 stars on my apron, I was a young gal in college, and it was always like I could always tell the people that wanted to know about that, because they knew that Cracker Barrel wasn't my end game. Like you would see someone who's, you know, 50 or 60 waiting tables. You're not going to ask them like, what do you want to be when you grow up? But you're going to ask the 19-year-old girl at Cracker Barrel what she wants to be. And again, like these people that sit, they genuinely want to know, like, what are your plans? And this is something, guys, we have to teach it. It's why Chick-fil-A teaches people to say my pleasure as soon as someone says thank you. You do have to train it. So yes, I agree with you. If you have a great culture, things are going to happen authentically, right? But we have to teach our students, listen, if you're having a bad day, we get it. We're not telling you to go out there and fake it till you make it. But if you want to be tipped in the real world, and if you want to retain clients, you're going to have to be positive, and you're going to have to, and tell them, like, these people that come in here, they want to know about your life and they want to know about your schooling. And so share that journey with them.
Doesn't Chick-fil-A empower each one of their employees to give away 1 meal a day as well, I think?
You know, I know for sure it's cookies. I had a friend who worked there where she was allowed to give away dessert to 3 different people. It's probably different. They're all franchised. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Like it's
Yeah,
empower your students to do that. Empower them to help change somebody's life as well.
I agree. I love that. So yeah, again, we want referrals. We have to build a really, really great culture that is positive, but we also have to train our students. And I will tell you guys, there's a couple programs out there, right? That like, if your current curriculum doesn't include retailing and customer service, there's some good ones out there that you can add to your program.
Very much so.
Let's talk about licensed professionals. So here's what's funny is that, especially like in a smaller town, there might not be a lot of beauty schools. There might be one. And there's a lot more salons than there are beauty schools. So usually a lot of the working stylists and estheticians in a town, in a city, did not go to a certain school, but we still want to engage them. So because maybe they went to school out of state, 3 hours away, they're not going to recommend someone go to their school 4 hours down the road. I really think the best schools out there with strong referral strategies go into salons and build relationships.
I agree 100%. A millennial ago, we had a program when I was involved with AACS, was the ACE Grant Award. It was the Access to Cosmetology Education. And there was a time, I don't know if it's still in place, I don't believe it is, but this is something that the schools can do at each salon as well. Create a referral program by putting some signage at the salon. Call it ACE. I don't think it's copyrighted or anything, and say Access to Cosmetology Education.
Yeah.
So people are coming in to get their hair done, or, you know, ask the stylist to wear a button. Ask me how I got here. And, you know, just have those conversations like that. But more importantly too, though, is and I say this all the time to the salons when they call up for placement, they say, I need assistance, I need this, I need that. I say, come in and meet my students, come in and meet my staff. That's how you're going to get the best of my graduates, but also then you're going to get to know me, and you're going to get to know my educational plan. And you're going to say, that's the school to go to. That's how I built the best rapport. So I went to the best salons. I went to all the salons, to be honest with you, from the budget salons all the way through to the high-end full service salons, and always built that rapport, because those are hands down, getting a recommendation from a professional in the industry is hands down the best.
I agree. Again, even if they didn't go to your school, they're licensed. And the fact is, if someone's wanting to go to beauty school, if someone wants to become a hairdresser, the first person they're going to tell is their hairdresser.
Absolutely.
That's the first, I mean, that's what I would do. And I mean, I hear it all the time. I have friends that are hairstylists and, you know, they know more about you than sometimes the spouse knows about you. Like you see them every few weeks. And if someone is thinking about going to school, they're going to ask naturally the only person they know in that profession, which is their actual stylist. And so that's why it's so important to build these relationships with every professional in your area. I know when I worked at a school, we would go in quarterly to salons. We bring them flowers actually, because they actually like having fresh flowers on the front desk. We would bring them flowers. We would create a scholarship and say, hey, if you know anyone looking to go to school, if you refer them, they can get $500. Like we're going to leave you, you know, the flyer information. And I love that you said invite them into your school. Absolutely. Once they get there and see that energy.
That's just how you described is how we used to use the ACE grant. We would say, we would actually tell the students this $1,000 off the tuition came from Salon ABC.
Yeah.
Because they believe in you so much and they want to hire you immediately upon graduation.
Oh, that's good. I like that. Where you're actually telling them where it came. I think that's fantastic.
You know what? Make a cooperative with the salons in the neighborhood. I'm a former salon owner myself. I would gladly pay $1,000 towards somebody's education that I thought was truly going to make a difference and be there and then graduate and come work in my salon, especially in today's market right now. The demand for hairdressers and estheticians far outweighs the enrollment coming into the schools.
Yeah.
So to get other people to have that skin in the game to bring people to you really means a lot.
Love that. So when it comes to those exit interviews, which we talked about at the very beginning, let's talk about where you get these referrals, like what that looks like and those testimonials. I like schools to set up, honestly, like a Google form or a Survey Monkey, so that when you're sitting across from that person and you have that conversation of, Anthony, you were amazing. I love your story. I want more people to hear it. I want more students just like you. Will you please leave us a review? Get them in that moment. When they leave, they're going to forget about it. And you can send emails all day. And by the way, you should probably email everyone who's graduated in the last 2 years and get them to tell their story on, like, not necessarily a Google review, but like you can create a Google form or a Survey Monkey just to get their actual testimonials. And they can upload videos or photos to include with that. But I think that if you do it right there in that moment, you're more likely to get a review. Is that what you guys did, or what are your thoughts on that?
I said it before. The 2 happiest days of a student's journey is their first day and their last day. So the first day, I don't know that you want to really ask for referrals, but their last day certainly, and you do it in a way where you're not asking. It's to the point of,
Yeah.
you know, tell us your story. Tell us how school was. Tell us where you're working now. What's going on? Is there anybody that you think you could help change their life as well? So it turns, it's not so much an ask as just they're helping somebody. You know, is there anybody in your life that you, because everybody inherently is, I want to believe, good, and they want to help people. And if they genuinely do love what they've just completed over 1,000 or 1,500 hours or 2,000 hours, it's, you know, it's difficult. So to have that sense of accomplishment and go out and then be able to help somebody else change their lives, that's an amazing thing.
So then let's talk about the talk track. Let's say they actually do give you a name and phone number, and we have to call these people, which, you know, can be very, very uncomfortable. Name drop your friend and just be confident when you speak. You don't want to be overly pushy, but if you do pick up the phone and call them, just say, hey, I'm not sure if you know this, but Anthony just graduated from our cosmetology program, and he said that you would make such a phenomenal hairstylist. I'm not really sure what you're doing right now in your life, but you can literally just tell them, like, again, name drop that person, or you could say, what are you doing? Are you working right now? Are you in school? And if they're like, oh my gosh, that sounds terrible. Okay, no problem. You know, be nice about it. Don't be like, okay, bye. Sorry. It was your friend that gave me the name. Like, we don't have to be rude about it, but you could say, no problem. Listen, I'm going to follow up with an email so that you at least have my information. So if you change your mind in the future, or if you know someone else that you think might make a good stylist, let me know. Just be nice about it. You know, and make sure, you know, you put a note in your CRM about it. But I think sometimes we can be really pushy or really awkward, just really weird when we call those people.
No, I agree. And I love that you said CRM. So it's important to have a good one. Selfish.
Yeah, it's one of the top things I would invest in and beauty schools directory.
This is true. Yeah. CRM, Ciana, CRM, and BSD. But you just made me think of something that we always did. And I've seen so many schools that do not take advantage of this. We had our graduation, and sometimes in some schools, we did it monthly or we did it quarterly.
Mhm.
I really like to do them daily because students graduate at different rates, right? Who made up their hours, who didn't make up their hours.
Sure.
So tell them, invite every one of your friends and your family, pack them all in, and the teachers would go around and they would do like a quick roast of the student. And they would say, Jen, you know, you came in late every day, you left early, but like in a funny way, ha ha ha, but you did it, you made it through your journey. Look at you now, you're working at such and such a salon. Not to talk about politics, but we're in a heated political season right now. We would send out to every graduate, all of our local congressmen, senators, assemblymen, everybody, and say, dear Senator, Jen Lyles graduated today. She's well on her journey into being a professional. Please send her a graduate, you know, say congratulations, join us. And they would send back, I can't tell you how many times, those elected officials, and you could use them to get to know your school better too. It would, you know, a kid might not even know who Senator so-and-so is, but to get that seal, you know, that letter from them, and then they bring it home and their parent sees or their grandparent sees or aunt or uncle, whoever it is, and says,
Yeah.
oh my God, I love or I hate that guy. It doesn't matter if I like them or not. It's amazing that your school went that extra mile. That becomes a source of referrals too, because it's a point of conversation that you didn't just graduate through a program. At the end of it, there was something there. They celebrated you. The school celebrated you. Your fellow school mates celebrated you. You bring your family and your friends in. And I can't tell you how many times then somebody would say, wow, I really want to find this school looks amazing. Like,
You know, I didn't even think about that with the elected officials, but that's great, right? Because obviously we need to have people in those positions aligned with us with everything going on in the industry. And so I think that's such a great idea. And that also helps set beauty schools apart from other schools and tell people we are different.
absolutely.
I think that's awesome. Well, this has been a really fun chat. I hope you guys have gotten some really good ideas from this webinar. Go ahead and go to the chat and add some questions, comments. Feel free to share with us. I do want to share really quickly that next month, our webinar that we're doing, of course, we do monthly webinars with BSD, is going to be on LinkedIn, the power of LinkedIn and your personal brand. That's a good one for me to do, right, Anthony?
You're like made for that one.
I love LinkedIn, and I want you all to love it just as much. So make sure you're joining that one. You'll receive an email with a link to sign up. Does anyone have any questions for us? Or Anthony, is there anything else you want to add to the referral?
I just want, first of all, I think this is an amazing platform that you've created, Jen. I hope that more and more people do get involved with it and they watch it. It's to know your audience, really sell the product. We're in education, we're in changing people's lives. If you do that, if you do it genuinely, everything will come together. The money will come, the enrollments will come. That's the best way to do it. So just, you know, be genuine, I guess is what I'm kind of saying, and be
Yep.
authentic in what you do.
I love that. We do have one question, and that comes with what you said about the elected officials. Do you email them or do you actually physically snail mail them?
We've done both. I think that they less and less open the snail mail, but sometimes it's nice to get that. And more often than not, they send back a really nice certificate. And then what happens once you see them, uh, once you see them responding to your students, invite them into a graduation too.
Yeah.
Invite our elected officials in for Constitution Day. And it was kind of goofy, but I actually had an elected official come in one time, and they presented It's Constitution Day, Charlie Brown. And it was just about your civic duty and what you need to know, and just how it makes it easier when, especially this beauty school owners, I'm sure you all know, we're always in a fight, right? Every day we're in another fight. If it's the Democrats, it's one fight. If it's the Republicans, another fight.
Right.
Education. So to create allies by letting them know how many students graduate from your school and go out into the workforce and building that relationship with them, it just makes it so much easier when you have to go actually fight. Because when you call on a congressman or a senator or Department of Education, whoever it may be, they know your story, because more often than not, what they'll hear is you're a for-profit school owner and you're just looking to rob people. But invite them in, let them get to see your school, let them get to hear the success stories of your graduates.
Oh, 100%. When they can see face to face somebody whose life has been changed. And I love that you do that for every graduation, because that's usually when they get emotional too, is when you have that person, doing their last clock out of the day and everyone's cheering. I think that's great to invite people in for that. And I love a lot of the things you guys said in the chat. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. This is a reminder, you guys, you do change lives, and your relationship in admissions is everything to not just prospective students, but students their entire journey. So definitely keep it up. Thanks so much for joining us. And I'll see you at NACUS next month. Anyone who's on this webinar, and I know Anthony might be there. I for sure will be.
I think I will, but if I'm not, come check us out. Check me out at Ciana.com and
Yes.
come to our programs as well.
Love it. All right. You guys have a great day. Thank you.